And I think now would be a good point to start working on that tree that is going to cover up all the flaws and imperfections of the photo scans and just fill out all the details like I showed you, like all the leaves in the last one that were kind of around the edge. Just we're kind of covering up and filling out all the weird empty space and like little glitches on these scans. So let's see if we can do that with the sapling tree gen. I was messing around with this yesterday and I got an okay result, so we'll see if I can do better today, but it doesn't need to be great. It needs to be a thing that we can see. So let's go Shift A, curve, sapling tree gen. If you don't have that in your add menu, just go to Preferences, search in the add-ons for a sapling tree gen. Oh, this one, yeah, 1P. The add curve sapling tree gen, just enable that, and then it's in here. Comes with Blender, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so what I did here is I just isolated this tree to temporarily hide everything, just backslash on the keyboard. Let's delete it because I can't click off, otherwise it'll cancel the generation. So there we go. Okay, so let's see what settings are going to work for this. The quickest way to get this to look good, I think, is just choose a preset. So Japanese maple seems to work well, and it brings back all the other geometry. That's kind of annoying, but oh well, we'll just deal with it like that. Okay, let's go leaves. I'm going to change the shape to rectangular. The reason is because if you keep it on hexagonal, I can actually show you. I want as few polygons as possible, and this is more of a leaf shape, but if I keep it on rectangular, I can just use a image of a leaf as a mask, and I can download one from textures.com, use it as an alpha mask, and get a nice leaf shape that way. And that's going to work better on a square shape anyways. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. Maybe I can turn up the scale of the X because I want it to be more square. Maybe even 0.5. So that should be fine there. And then let's do, if I go to branch splitting, default levels is 2. Let's turn that up to 3, maybe actually 4 even. Give it a sec. Okay, there we go. So we've got some leaves now. If you go past 4, it starts getting very laggy. Like it was struggling a little bit there, but it's not too bad. But I think that's going to be good. So let's just take this. I'm not going to spend too much time like dialing in the settings. I don't really care. I just want something that looks roughly like a tree that's going to look fine in the background. So don't need to go crazy. Okay, isolate this. Okay, so we got the sun, the trunk, and the leaves all together. So right now we've got a problem, which is the leaves are just planes. Luckily, it's very easy to deal with this. When it generates this, it gives the same UV map to all these leaves. So what I can do is just make a new texture. Okay, so yesterday I just went to textures.com. I just typed in leaf, and then I just downloaded one of the free leaf textures on here. So it just comes with albedo, so just base color, alpha mask. That's really all we need. There's a normal map. Don't really care about that, and whatever this is, roughness. This is click this, so it's highlighted. Press Ctrl-Shift-T. I think you might have to have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled for that. Again, comes with Blender. Just enable it in the preferences. Node Wrangler. And then it's kind of annoying to navigate with this thing. So I'm just going to drag from the Windows File Explorer to the Blender one, and that'll just bring me to this location of this file. And then I can just take alpha, roughness, normal, albedo, press the setup button right here, and it'll import them all at once into the principled shader. Okay, so let's deal with these leaves now. So luckily, when you generate a tree with the sapling tree gen add-on, all of the leaves come as a separate object like this, so you can just grab one and they're all joined together. And also when you tab into edit mode and then select all of the faces, they all share the exact same UV map like this. So I can just move this one chunk of faces around in this editor and they'll all be lined up on here. So let me show you what I mean. Let's go to rendered view. If rendered view is too slow for you to work on this, depending on what GPU you have, just use material preview. Doesn't matter. So anyways, let's just select the alpha so I can but if I just click this one, it'll show up in the UV editor over here. And I'm just going to move it around until I find a leaf that works. So maybe this one, or just this one right here. And let's just kind of line that up if we can. Let's actually go into material preview. And that doesn't really help. Okay, so here's a spot where I can see. So I just want to move it around to where the stems like kind of connect to this thing. So let's see if we can just do that. Just get the entire leaf in there, pull it back this way, and I should shrink it on the Y a little bit. It's going to stretch it a bit, but it doesn't really matter. I just don't want the stem from the next one to show up in this one. So it's fine if I warp things a little bit, but let's just get this to like work properly. Okay, good enough. Doesn't need to be perfect, just roughly a leaf type of shape. And there we go. Now there's a couple more things we need to do. So this texture is not fully set up. I need to add translucency because on real leaves and real trees, it's not just like, if I look at the backside of this leaf, it's not just completely dark like this. Like you want the light to be shining through it a little bit. So the easiest way to get that effect is we take a translucent shader, just drop that in here, translucent, and I'm just going to add it using an add shader to what we already have. So we got the principled, add, translucent, and so it's working, but not exactly how we want. I want the color of the translucent to be the same color as the color that's running into the leaf. So we can take this base color map, run that into the color of the translucent, and now it's working a bit better, but the alpha is messed up now. So the way we deal with that is we're getting an alpha mask running into the principled, but not the translucent, but there is no alpha input. So the way we deal with that is we just take a transparent. So a transparent node is just going to be the exact same as if you turn the alpha all the way down to 0. It's not working because it's adding to the translucent, but if I bring this out, so it's just the principled here, alpha's at 1. If I bring it down to 0, it's completely transparent. It's the exact same as if you just use a transparent running that straight out. It's just invisible. So what we can do is, let's bring this back to the add shader and run this out. So I'm going to use a mix shader now between these two things added. So our output, our result here, I'm going to mix between that and the translucent. So let's take a mix shader because I don't want to add the transparent. I just want to mix between them using that mask that it comes with. So this black and white image, that's going to be our mix factor between these two things. So I want the black areas of this image to be invisible, and I want the white areas of this image to be 100% visible from every angle. So that's why we have to add this mix shader after everything with the translucent running into one of the sockets. So let's just take that alpha mask and just drag it into the mix factor between those two things. And it's working. I just plugged it in the wrong socket. So you can see it's making our leaf invisible, but the background visible. So if you just flip those around so that this is on the other socket here on the mix shader, now it's working properly from every angle. So you can see from the bottom it works, from the top it works. So yeah. Okay, so now we're getting our translucency, we're getting the transparency working, and I think we're good there. Now, it doesn't look great, so there's a few things I'm going to try to see if I can fix this. But for now, let's get a texture on the bark here. So I'm going to hit new again. I'm going to use that same shortcut, Control-Shift-T, to bring up this thing here. And I'm just going to open up my Windows thing and find it here because it's a bit easier. So textures.com, again, I just went on here yesterday, searched like bark, tree bark on textures.com, found a free one. So plants, oak bark. So let's just take any one of these, drop it into the Explorer here. Just gonna move my File Explorer back over here. And let's see, what do we need here? For the bark texture, albedo, height we don't need, normal, roughness, and we can take the ambient occlusion. I don't think it's gonna make that big of a difference, but whatever. Import that, it's all good except the ambient occlusion is not in here yet, so we can just deal with that really quick. So mix node, that was a mix RGB node before the last update. Let's go color, And let's just drop that in here. So we want to mix between, let's pull this up a little. So base color is slot A, ambient occlusion, slot B. And we want to multiply it in so that only the dark areas of that map show up. And we've got to unwrap it, but we'll deal with that in a second. So yeah, not a huge difference, but makes it slightly more textury. So we're just going to do that. And everything else is fine. You can maybe turn off the normal strength a little bit. So we got to deal with this UV map. So I've tried just doing a quick, like a smart UV project on everything, but it gets a little laggy. There's so many little branches and fine little details that it is not actually a great way to do it. So what I can do is, first of all, let's convert this to a mesh. So right click, convert to mesh. Let's just select, so actually this isn't all connected luckily, so I can press L, just hover the cursor over any area and press L to select linked geometry. So I'm just going to hit L on the biggest chunks that need UV map. And then I'm going to ignore the rest of these fine little branches because they don't really matter anyways. And if I try to unwrap it all at once, it's just going to lag out, I found. So just selecting these big chunks like this. So any of these which seem like they should be unwrapped, we'll just deal with that. Can probably handle a little more. So again, I'm just hovering over. All I'm doing is just putting the cursor above any geometry. And then when it's hovering over there, hit L. And then we'll select that. Okay, so that should be good. What I'm gonna do is just tab out of here for a sec. Let's apply the scale. And then Smart UV Project, default settings, hit OK. And should be good. So it's working, just need to scale that up a lot because here's the bark and here's the UV map. So we just scale it up by like 10 maybe. So S, 10, enter. That's a little bit much. Let's go half of that maybe, or 0.6. So it doesn't need to be great, it just needs to be a thing. So this is good enough for now. It's like, you can tell it's bark, it's gonna be far away, doesn't really matter. Again, it just needs to look somewhat decent, so that's fine. Now, one thing with these trees is it's not very, like, you don't get a very full look with them, like it's kind of empty in the middle. So the easiest way to deal with that is just take the leaves, don't join them to the tree quite yet, just duplicate the entire thing and then just scale it down and like rotate it around. So they're kind of floating, but you can't really tell. It's going to look fine. I'm going to do that in a second, but first of all, I think I want them a little bit smaller. So if I want to shrink them all together all at once, let's switch this to individual origins, select all those leaves and then just hit S. Let's see, like 0.75 maybe. Let's see what that looks like. It's a bit more of the shape I wanted, but maybe not quite. I also would like to rotate them a little bit more downwards. Okay, so I tried to separate them all by loose parts, but it crashed, so I would not recommend that, I guess. But anyways, let's actually do that scaling down again. I lost that from the crash, so just 0.75, maybe even a little lower. Let's go 0.9 again on that. So that is probably a good size for the leaves. A little bit small, but looks good. And then one thing I want to do is let's go back to median point. To fill out the middle of this thing, because it's a little empty in the middle, let's just duplicate the entire leaves, just scale it down, and then just flip it around this way. So I'm just selecting the leaf object and then hitting Shift D to just make a duplicate of that entire thing and then scaling it down to fit like more in the middle like this. And although the leaves are now floating, they're not connected to any branches, it probably doesn't really matter because can you really tell? I can't really. Maybe if you look really close, you'll find a couple here and there where it looks like it's floating, but these are going to be small in the background. It's just meant to fill out empty space. So I honestly don't really care if it's a little bit janky. So I'm just going to scale this around and make it kind of fit in there. I might even duplicate it again and just have it like this. And honestly, that looks fine. It's, I think once I get the lighting in here, it's going to look totally fine. Do I need that? Not really, but it looks fine. All right. That's going to be good for now. I'm not going to worry too much more about this because like I said, background, it's going to be far away. Like who cares? Okay. So let's join those together now. And if you don't see the leaves, if they disappear when you join it, just add a new UV map, and that should fix the problem. So the way you do that is you go to this button right here, just click this, go to this green triangle button, Object Data Properties, scroll down to UV Maps, and then just hit the plus right here, and that should fix it if you don't see the leaves. So yeah. And also, I'm going to include a timestamp to where you can skip this, or a section you can skip to not have to watch me make a tree, because honestly, you shouldn't do that if you have an add-on like Botanic, or if you just go out and buy a tree. I'll link to some good trees you can just buy for like $2. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend making trees, but like I said, I just want something I can use in here where I can still share the blend file. So that's what we're doing. Anyways, let's go back to, we'll just slash out of local view to unhide everything, and give this a second while my computer struggles through this. So we've got a decent, not amazing, but good enough tree. This, I'm just going to move to that tree collection as a backup and then just uncheck it. Just so I have it all separated over there if I want another piece of that for some reason.